Among the various barbarian tribes that define the fall of Rome, there is hardly one with such a lasting impact as the Franks. They began as a loose confederation of raiders, transformed from despised pirates into the papacy's protectors, and eventually became the founders of modern Europe. But here is the historical paradox. How did a loose confederation of hardly 150,000 people manage to inherit an empire of over 60 million? Who were the Franks really? The ones whose ferocity terrified the legions, yet whose loyalty saved Gaul from Attila the Hun. In this deep dive, we seek to answer just that. How did Rome's deadliest allies become its only true heirs? The Franks first appear in Roman records in the mid-3rd century. From this date onwards, they took advantage of the crisis of the 3rd century to launch pirate raids into Roman Gaul and even Spain. The name itself, Franci, likely meant the fierce or the free, a direct challenge to Roman subjugation. These descriptions are fortified by archaeological evidence in Toxandria, modern Belgium. Excavations confirm that the Romans eventually tired of fighting them and invited them to settle as foederati, federated allies, in 358 AD to guard the Rhine frontier. But we have to be careful when it comes to the standard narrative of barbarian invasions. While popular narrative suggests the Franks were just savages waiting to burn Rome, modern analysis points out that by the 5th century, the Franks were the Roman army in the north. They weren't just invaders, they were middlemen. Consider the numbers. By the mid-4th century, estimates suggest that anywhere from 50% to 75% of the Roman field army consisted of Germanic recruits. In fact, during the late 4th century, 3 out of the 5 top generals in the West were of Germanic descent. This reality was on full display in 451 AD at the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. It was the Franks holding the line alongside the Romans to stop Attila the Hun. They were living in a hybrid world, Germanic by blood, Roman by paycheck. It is here we must descend from our bird's-eye view and examine the daily reality of this hybrid identity. Evidence shows the Franks adopted Roman military organization while keeping their own brutal tribal laws. Take the tomb of Childeric I, the father of Clovis. When his tomb was discovered in 1653, it contained a Roman-style signet ring, marking him as a Roman administrator. Sitting right next to 300 golden bees, a pagan Germanic symbol of immortality. Napoleon was so obsessed with this hybrid symbolism that he later replaced the French fleur-de-lis with these very bees. But they also kept their signature weapon, the Francisca. Unlike the heavy Roman sword, this was a perfectly balanced throwing axe. Procopius wrote that they would throw these in a single volley right before a charge. The design was ingenious. If the axe hit the ground before the target, its unique shape caused an unpredictable bounce, maiming legs and shattering enemy morale before the lines even met. The relationship changed forever in 476 AD, when the Western Roman Empire finally collapsed. The Franks found themselves stuck between the Visigoths in the south and the last remaining Roman enclave in the north, the Kingdom of Soissons, ruled by Syagrius. Syagrius was effectively surrounded by 3 hostile powers, and the new Frankish king, Clovis I, smelled blood. Despite taking the throne at only 15 years old, Clovis was a cunning operator. In 486 AD, at the Battle of Soissons, the young king crushed Syagrius. But the real turning point wasn't the battle, it was the Vase of Soissons incident. Legend says a warrior refused to give Clovis a looted vase, plundered from a church, smashing it to prove the king was just an equal among warriors. A year later, Clovis recognized the man during a military inspection. He threw the man's axe to the ground, and when the warrior bent to pick it up, Clovis split his skull, shouting, "Thus you did to the vase at Soissons." This moment marked the death of tribal democracy and the birth of absolute monarchy. By the time Clovis died in 511 AD, the old order had collapsed. But unlike other barbarian kings who remained Arian heretics, Clovis had made a calculated bet. He converted to Catholicism. From the remnants of Gaul, the Franks began to form an independent Francia. This religious alliance with the Pope would eventually lead to Charlemagne, and the Holy Roman Empire centuries later. But how they went from the rough warriors of Clovis to the imperial majesty of Charlemagne is a story for another time. Make sure you are subscribed and have the bell notification on so you don't miss the truth behind the myth.